So, looking at the summary data is very important for teachers to look back and see really how the students did, what worked, what didn't. And after looking at all the data from week one, I can see that there was trouble with the kids sounding out the words based on the letters that were in there. There was a lot of reteaching during this week, and many students had to have reteaching because they were not able to get the sound correct in the word. So this week, there were many students that just weren't quite getting how to put that sound into the word that they were hearing. And we had our mini lessons, and then they would do their practice on the technology-based solution of Read with Phonics. And then at the end of the week, we gave them a quiz, a phonics quiz. And what we did is we asked them to say the word that was on the screen. If they said it was correct, they said the word correctly, we clicked on one button. If they said it was incorrect, they clicked on the other. So we were just able to really quickly do a quick kind of quiz to see were they able to figure out the word and put the sounds in correctly for the word. So not only was there reteaching, but there was one student in particular who really didn't understand and didn't get as far as the other students. And it could be because the fact that he's a level 1 ESOL student and he is still learning how to just kind of use pictures to understand what the word is in the English vocabulary. So he had a lot harder of a time because he's really not at the stage of sounding out letters in a word. He's still just learning to identify what different things are. So, yes, he had trouble, but yes, he still was a little bit successful, like scoring in the 80s. He wasn't getting them all wrong, he just wasn't getting them all 100% correct. So, if we look at during week two, we can see that the students definitely started having a better understanding of how to sound out the letters in the words. And I found that the students were having trouble with the letter sound R, and a lot of students also had trouble with the sound CK. So R and CK were kind of our focus reteaches this week, and we found ways to incorporate different word games to play with the students so that they were able to understand what the sound really was and how it worked within the word. Now, this week there was also a little quiz that we were able to do, and they were able to tell us the word, and we chose if they said it correctly or not. And that's how we knew what they got. Now, these scores are from the technology-based solution of Read with Phonics. And as you can see, most of them went up and they started doing really, really well this week, other than those reteaches that we needed to focus on. But for the most part, these students did great. They were able to sound out the word based on the letters in the word. Now, looking at my level ESOL, one student, he made some progress, but he was not as fast with the sounds as everyone else. So he was still working on sounds from the first week, so he didn't get as far as the other students. So yes, he needs reteach on all the sounds, but he was able to kind of place them in the right spot some of the time, but not all the time. And again, he really isn't speaking English at this point, so he's still learning the words with the pictures. And there weren't as many pictures for him, so sounding out them creates a more challenge for him. So looking at week three, you can see that some of the students really did a lot better. And there weren't as many reteachings that had to be taught. There were a few here and there, but most of it was they were getting it and they were understanding it. So, one of the activities we did at the end of the week was called an unscramble. And what it had was the picture, and then it had the words scrambled in the wrong order. And what the students had to do is they had to say the word and then they had to sound it out. And these words were 3-letter words with the picture. So they had to say it. So if there was like a bat, they had to say bat and then sound out bat, bat. And then what they did, they had to take those sounds and write them down. Most of the students did really, really well. Now, there was one student in particular that she scored a 62% on this. And I sat there and I listened to her, and she was sounding out the words correctly. So then I'm thinking, why isn't she getting them correctly? Well, what she was doing is she was going back over to the scrambled word and writing the scrambled word as her word instead of taking the sounds she was saying and placing them into the correct boxes. So I tried to sit there and say, okay, wait a minute, you gave me these sounds in this order, let's write them as we say them. And it worked on a few, but then, she wanted to do some on her own. And when I looked back, she still didn't grasp the fact that she was sounding out the letters in the word to spell it correctly. And the letters that were over there, they're scrambled, were there to help her to know these were the 3 letters that needed to be placed correctly in the box. So during the last week of our technology-based solution of Read with Phonics, I found that the students were really, really being successful at this. They were having fun. They wanted to play it. They were looking forward to their game time every day, which was the technology-based solution during reading block. And they did really, really well. As you can see, a lot of them were doing great on the unscramble part 2. Even Lucas, he was able to say the picture and then kind of like sound it out. He did really well. He also likes puzzles, and for him, the letters were there. So he just had to kind of put them in the right order, and he was able to figure out that all the vowels went in the middle. So that kind of helped him a lot too when he was placing the 3-letter words. Now, my other little friend who didn't do so well on the previous week, she did a little bit better this time, but again, she did the same thing. She's sounding out the word correctly, but then she's looking at the scrambled letters and taking the scrambled letters and writing them exactly how they were scrambled in the box rather than taking the sounds that she said very correctly and putting them in the correct order. So other than that, the students really did well. I mean, they were able to get mostly hundreds and 90%, and there were a few students that had sounds that they had to reteach, but a lot of the students that needed reteach this week were my ESOL students. So it kind of shows that everyone was really understanding how to take the letter sounds and put them into words, into a context that they could use. So overall, looking at all this data, it showed me that this technology-based solution of Read with Phonics was a very successful tool to use with the students in my classroom, because then they were able to kind of take what we were learning in our mini lessons and apply it in a way that was fun to them, not just working on the words and understanding that that's all they were doing. They really thought they were playing games and getting points. And not really thinking that they were playing word games, but really thinking they were just playing a game that they had to decide if the word was real or fake. And then they helped this little character in the game solve the word correctly. And every time they did that, they got points and they really enjoyed it. They asked every day, "Are we going to play our phonics game?" And I said, "Every day, yes, we are, as soon as you get to that rotation." So this technology-based solution was something that was successful not only by the data, but the fact that the students really enjoyed playing it.